Go ahead, Mark.
All righty. Well, welcome everybody to our June 2022 meeting. In order to be compliant with our rules and quorum and stuff, we're going to jump around a little bit and then come back for those matters that need voting. And so we'll take out of order and you just leap forward to the staff reports. And the first one I see on our list.
Mark, I think we have to do a roll call to start the meeting, right?
Oh, okay, sure.
Okay.
Why don't we take the roll call?
Of course, Acosta, Hammersmith, Lee,
Present.
Lester,
Present.
Levy, Vance,
Here.
Yoon. We do not yet have quorum.
Okay. Thank you. So in order to be compliant with quorum, we'll go out of order on those matters that don't need a quorum in order to consider. And with that, let's leap up to the staff reports. First one up is the update on the 2021-2022 CBLS appointments. Adrian, that's you.
You got it. So for the CBLS 2021-2022 appointment period, we will have one upcoming vacancy for that year. Mark's term is actually ending this year. We did receive 25 applications. The CBLS officers, they did review the applications. They've made recommendations. So these recommendations, they are scheduled to go to the July Board of Trustees meeting. And I can provide a further update after that. Any action is taken at that time.
Okay. And that's it for our appointments, Adrian? So next up would be the update on the CBLS 2022 work plan. And for that, we're going to look to Anna, please.
Yes, thank you, Mark. Good morning, everyone. I will be providing an update on the CBLS 2022 work plan. To start, all sub-entity work plans will go to the July BOT meeting. In regards to the privacy law consulting group, we have begun recruiting for the group. In consultation with the CBLS officers, we are seeking practitioners, judges, and others with expertise in the proposed specialty area, as well as business experts. The consulting group will consist of 13 members, including one but up to 2 non-attorney members. The application period originally ended on June 1st, and we did receive 19 applications. However, all applicants were attorney applicants, and we need at least 1 public member, so it has been extended to July 1st, 2022. And we are open to any suggestions the CBLS may have to add this 1 public member that we need. Next, we have the new legal specialist examination item banking solution. Staff has met with and begun training in the new system with the provider, and we hope to complete build for the next development cycle. A further update will be provided in the closed session as the information pertains to exam question development and management. And
Hey, Anna, do we discuss the privacy law consulting group piece now, or do we later if we've got an idea? What's
Adrian?
It will be later since we extended the appointment period and we don't yet have the requisite number of applicants and applications.
okay?
But I think Mark he has a suggestion, right, for recruiting that public member.
Yeah, I was kind of like,
oh,
do we have an idea of, what's the industry we're looking for? I mean, between the members of the board and stuff, we might know somebody that would fit that group that we could say, hey, why don't we reach out to so-and-so?
Yeah. So I think go ahead, Adrian.
Well, I was gonna suggest maybe someone in the tech or security industry. Those I would say they kind of overlap with privacy.
Right.
open to
Yeah,
other,
like a Rob Hershenson,
potentially, yes.
So, or what was her name that was so helpful in our computer issues?
Yes, I know who you're talking about.
Right, who was on the board for a couple of years.
Another public member.
Another public member, exactly.
I remember, I can't put a name to it. I'll look it up.
I can see her. And so.
Yeah, those are great suggestions, Mark.
And just another thought on this, depending on which direction we're looking for a public member. If we approached things like the Paralegal Association, they're not attorneys, but they're very close to the industry. And Santa Clara has a very active paralegals association, but a lot of them are not, the paralegals are not actually law firm paralegals, they're the tech company paralegals. So that might be people who are developing their career, they'd want to get involved. And in Santa Clara, it's called PASCO, which is the Paralegal Association of Santa Clara County or something like that. They have some very active members, might generate some leads for us.
Yeah, from folks over at Apple or Google or whatever.
Yeah. And a lot of them, they want to get involved in things. So they have some insight, might be helpful.
Great idea, Michael.
Mhm.
Okay, so we had some ideas. Thank you.
Yeah.
And if you want to continue on, that'd be great.
Thanks.
Alrighty. Thank you. And staff continues to explore marketing opportunities. Staff has been taking part in the ABA Standing Committee on Specialization Roundtable meetings, where the main focus of discussions have been marketing. One of our very own members, Mark, sits on the ABA Specialization Marketing Subcommittee. Audrey and Adrian attended the National Specialization Roundtable meeting in May as panelists, where the discussion focused on public outreach and standardizing the term for legal specialist. Staff will also be participating in the CAW convention as a measure to outreach to workers' compensation attorneys. And we recently updated brochures, What Can a Specialist Do for You?, to encourage participation in the program from the public.
Hey, Anna, what does CAW stand for?
I'm not sure, Adrian, it's
California Applicants Attorneys Association. It's a
Okay.
It's an organization for work comp attorneys. Defense side can join, but it's mainly for the applicant side.
Okay. I recognize the term applicants. As little as I know about workers' comp, I recognize the term applicants.
Sure. And if I may, since I'm already speaking, I did want to note that both Jeff and Norma have joined, so we do have quorum now.
Yay. Welcome, guys.
Being late, I've been stuck on a court appearance.
Go ahead, Anna. Sorry about that.
it's okay. And in regards to procuring and retaining SMEs, this year we plan to restart recognizing certification milestones. Staff will issue CBLS lapel pins that indicate a specialist has held certification for 20, 30, or 40 years. This was discontinued back in 2017, so staff is currently looking at specialists who reached those anniversaries in the year since, so that we can retroactively grant them those pins. And staff will also begin recruitment for exam developer roles of drafter, pretesters, and graders by the end of this month. And lastly, we have the research of the impact of the remote exam, and I'm going to hand it off to Janelle since she has more information on the survey that was conducted.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. So for the following 2021 legal specialization examination, a survey was sent to all applicants that sat from the examination. Out of the 456 applicants, 90 applicants completed the survey. The slides that you're about to see summarize feedback provided from applicants on the first online administration of the legal specialization examination. So the first question was asked, how much previous experience did you have taking computerized examination? A little had taken computerized examination in a couple of courses. 40% stated that. 30% stated a lot. I've taken a computerized examination in many of my courses, and 30% stated none. I had not previously taken a computerized examination. In the period preceding the remote LSX, did you review information provided by the State Bar of the State Bar of California explaining policies for remote testing using Exemplify. 95% said yes, 5% said no. Applicants are asked to rate the following statement about materials being provided in a timely manner regarding their remote legal specialization examination. They were provided in a timely manner. 35% strongly agreed, 40% agreed, 5% no opinion, 10 strongly agreed, and 10 disagreed. Applicants were asked to rate the following statement about materials being provided in a timely manner regarding the remote exam. They were understandable. Strongly agree, 30%, agree, 40, no opinion, 5, strongly, 10, and disagree, 15. Applicants were asked to rate the following statement about materials being provided in a timely manner regarding the remote exam. They were thorough. Strongly agreed, 25, 45 agreed, 10 no opinion, 10 strongly, and 10 disagreed. Did you have any issues obtaining the technology or internet access needed to take the remote exam? 80% said no, 20% said yes. And the majority of applicants stated the following: their internet access was not significantly stable. Their computers did not fit the exam soft technology requirements. They did not have a computer, or their computer crashed. To what extent do you agree with the following statement? The instructions I received to set up my testing environment was clear, and the testing policies and rules I received prior to the testing were clear. 30% strongly agreed, 45% agreed, no opinion 5%, strongly disagreed 10, and 10% disagreed. Based on your testing experience, how would you prefer to take the exam if you were to sit for it again in the future? 10% in a group setting, but not on a computer. 20% stated on a computer in a group setting, such as a test center or law school. 60% on a computer in an isolated environment, such as at home or in a hotel, and 10% had no preference. Do you think your testing environment prevented or inhibited you from demonstrating your competence? 5% said extremely, 20% somewhat, and 60% said not at all. If you could select a method for receiving the essay questions, would you prefer? 5% said receive on their computer, 50%, sorry, said receive on their computer, 30% said receive paper copies, and 20% said no preference. If they could receive, the multiple choice questions, how would they prefer? 55% said receive on their computer, 25% receive paper copies, and 20% said no preference. Overall, how would you describe your remote testing experience? 25 extremely satisfied, 55% was satisfied, 5% had no opinion, 10% was extremely dissatisfied, and 10% was dissatisfied. That concludes the results.
Any questions from the CBLS at all?
So, Anna, did you get any feedback from folks who had difficulties other than the information you presented at the beginning? There were some people who had a bad experience related to technical issues. Were there any other issues that came up in terms of folks who did not have a good experience?
There were people who stated, but this was the majority of applicants stated this. I can provide information if needed about others the CBLS would like.
So Janelle, I have a follow-up to that. So of those people, do we know, did anybody have a problem to the extent that they couldn't finish the exam? Do we have any indication, like, for example, those people who said their internet was not sufficiently stable, or that their computers didn't fit the didn't meet the technology requirements? Were any of those folks people who were not able to take the exam overall?
No, they made sure, I believe, during the mock exam to get that handled. prior
Okay.
to-
Yeah, because that is one thing I wanted to point out. We conducted the same survey for the bar exam, and we've done it for also the first year law student exam, the one that we call the baby bar. And some of our findings are very similar in terms of the pattern. The majority of folks had a successful experience, exam taking experience with using the remote technology that we provide. The one thing is that those that struggle, which is a smaller population, we're still able to complete the exam. We did have a few people that weren't for a variety of reasons, such as like they couldn't find the password or something like there were bigger issues. And part of it is that inexperience with technology. And I think there's a group that falls in that category. One thing that we always offer for all of our exams, and I think legal specialization was the same way, anybody who wanted to take the test in writing in person was able to do that. We accommodated that. So in the event that the technology would be something that a hurdle that they couldn't cross in order to successfully test for the legal specialization. But the other thing is that, oh, I know the thing that you just pointed out, Janelle, the mock exam. All applicants that use exam software, the ExamSoft software, are required to take a mock exam. What that mock exam does is two things. One is it ensures that the ExamSoft technology is compatible with everybody's laptop, so that we know, if you're unsuccessful with that, there's no compatibility and you cannot take the exam. So that is one of the goals of that mock exam. And secondly, is to help people familiarize themselves with the system itself, so that they get a set of mock questions, of actual questions, as an essay form, as well as the multiple choice, so that when the real exam happens, they know what it's going to look like. How does you move from one screen to the next? Where do I write? The cut and paste. The all of the features that it offers, like virtual virtual scratch paper. It gets everybody familiar with using each of the exam features. So that is a very big piece of getting people acquainted with the system in advance. And we highlight that it's a requirement, like I said, so that's helpful. But I do think that we're always going to have a population that's less comfortable with technology. And like I mentioned, we also offer a paper version and to test in person in the event that that is somebody's situation or circumstances.
Just give it another 10 years and everybody will have taken computerized tests that start taking these things. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, you see that also reflective in the MCLE. I mean, a lot of the MCLE, if not like a large proportion, is happens online or remotely. So anyway, so I just want to add that piece.
And one other thing, just before we get off this topic, hey Janelle, that last slide, was that really 105% reporting?
I was wondering the same thing.
Okay.
Sorry.
By my simple math, so all right, cool. So with that, now that we're back to quorum, let's go back to the top of our agenda for this, and because I forgot to tell you at the start, as a quick reminder, to leave your phones and computers on mute when you're not speaking. So that will help us go smoothly. Adrian, can you retake roll for us now?
You got it. Acosta,
Present.
Hammerschmidt,
Present.
Lee,
Present.
Lester,
Present.
Levy, Vance,
Present.
Yoon. All right, that is enough members. We now have quorum. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Now that we have quorum, we'll go through in order, and item B on our agenda is going to be the call for a public comment. And I don't know if we have anybody who is in attendance who wants to make a comment as we get started with the top of our agenda today. For those of you who are participating via Zoom, you should have a function for virtually raising your hand. And if you wish to make that public comment, please use that raise hand function. For those of you who are participating by telephone, you may virtually raise your hand by pressing *9. And that's the star key, then the number 9. Doing so is going to alert us that you would like to make a comment. Staff will call members of the public in the order that their virtual hands appear. We ask that if you do have a comment, that you limit your comments to 3 minutes, and you will be notified when you have 30 seconds left so that you have the opportunity to conclude your comments. At 3 minutes, we will, however, turn off your mic and call the next member of the public who wishes to participate. Are there any of the members of the public here who wish to comment on any topic that is on our agenda this morning?
I do see 2 members of the public. Neither are raising their hands.
Okay, great. So with that, we will bring the public comment participation point to a close. And let's move on to the consent agenda. First up is the approval of the March 18, 2022 California Board of Legal Specialization public meeting minutes. And I ask if you all could take time to review those minutes. As a reminder, only the members that were present at that meeting are going to be eligible to vote. Wait a second.
Sorry,
All members present here today, regardless of whether you were present or not at the 318 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as they have been presented?
I move to approve the minutes.
The motion is moved by Michael Lee. Do I have a second?
Second,
The second was that Natalie?
yes.
Second by Natalie Vance. Adrian, if you would take the roll, please.
Of course. Acosta,
Yes.
Hammerschmidt,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Vance.
Yes.
That is enough votes. The minutes are approved and accepted.
Okay, thank you. And now we'll move on to staff reports, picking up where we left off. And that's going to be item C, the update on the 2023 legal specialization budget reserve spend down initiatives. Adrian.
Sure, of course. So the Board of Trustees, they did meet in May and reviewed the recommended spend down that the CBLS previously approved. The Board of Trustees, they actually approved that no significant spend down would be authorized or required until they have fully addressed the deficit in the admissions fund. So right now, the CBLS, although we are above the reserve, the maximum target reserve policy, we will not be required to spend anything down. So.
Okay, great. Thank you, Adrian. Next up, item D is the recent developments. For that, we look to Audrey.
Good morning. We have a couple exams coming up in the Office of Admissions. This month on the 28th, we have the first year law students exam. Right now we have 271 approved applicants for that exam, and it's going to be administered remotely using ExamSoft. It's been several cycles now with the first year exam since June 2020 have been administered remotely. Of course, we do have accommodated applicants coming in person to the office or to a hotel space, and folks who said they had extenuating circumstances. But the first year exam, we definitely are continuing to administer that one remotely. Coming up in July, of course, is the bar exam on the 26th and 27th of July. We're moving through over 8,000 applications. About half of those are so far approved, and we'll see how many move from pending to approved by the exam day. That exam will be administered in person, just like we did in February 2022 this year. So we're back to in-person exams for the bar exam. And of course, this is the larger exam out of the 2 bar exams during the year. So we'll be staffed up at locations across the state. Any questions? I think Adrian has something to add before I go on to the next part.
Correct. Yeah. So another recent development, I did just want to mention that the state bar, they are standardizing the committee materials and communications. I'm not sure if any of the members here noticed, but beginning at the last meeting, the format of the minutes did change. It was recently updated. And then regarding the communications, they're going to be standardizing the content and the frequency of the communications that go out pre-meeting and then also post-meeting. So additional updates to those that we should be seeing for the next meeting. So.
Is that going to materially change how we've been conducting our business on the board?
I think it may reduce the number of emails that I'm sending prior to meetings, but also like the item numbering of the agenda. It's going to be standardized across all the committees as well. So that may not necessarily affect the way that the business is done, but the order or the numbering, it will change. So
Yeah.
So we'll probably be getting the same information. It just may be in a different order.
correct, or possibly like a slightly different format. So
Okay. I mean,
Oh, sorry.
go for it.
Mark, I was just gonna say, I think the biggest change that we'll experience is of the protocol for establishing our meetings. You know, right now we send an email, a survey conveying, like asking where people are going to be meeting, so we can list addresses, whether it's a home or business, onto the agenda, because we need to remain Bagley-Keene compliant, but also don't have the capacity to meet in person. One of the things that's also being standardized is the ability for us to have in-person meetings. And so right now we're looking at the potential of being able to meet, have up to 2 meetings per year. And so we're exploring that. So we'll be contacting the chair and the vice chair. So Mark and Natalie will be reaching out to you to make suggestions for the remaining meetings for the remainder of the year. Aside from the in-person meetings, this protocol on sending this survey in advance so we can note it on the agenda, that's the newest thing that's going to be ongoing until determinations made whether we can have government meetings. It would not need to list addresses on our meeting and remain Bagley-Keene compliant. So anyways, that's one of the biggest protocols I think that's going to feel like a change, but as Adrian suggested, it will not change our business or the business that gets addressed at CBLS meetings. It should not interfere with that.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much, Amy. All right. Anything else on recent developments, Adrian, or are we done there?
I had no further updates. Thanks, Mark.
Okay. Moving on to agenda item 4, that's business. A is our review of the report on financial and operational key indicators. For that, we look to Audrey again. Audrey?
Back to me. I'm going to walk you through the item posted, the review of report on financial and operational key indicators. The first attachment posted to that item is about the budget. If you look at that item under our line, it indicates that the 2022 revenue is in line with projections that we made at the start of the year. Right now, our expenses are far under budget. about 80% under budget, but that is also due to a lot of expenses that are coming due with the exam development costs and then the new item banking system. So by the end of the year, we should be much more aligned with what we projected for expenses. And then comparing that projection of revenue with expenses, we probably still will see an expected overall 184,000 positive change in our net position, approximately. So that's what the projections are for the budget. On the item, it's posted, there's a chart talking about the annual fee. So we have the annual billing for 2022 began December 1st, 2021. The specialist had until February 1st to submit the $360 for the annual fee. We've been sending reminders monthly to all specialists who have not paid their annual fees. Folks who didn't pay had, by February, had a $75 late fee assessed. And as of June 1st, so just a few days ago, there were 45 specialists who have not yet paid the legal specialization program annual fee. And then that table in the item posted shows who has the highest sort of balance of specialists who have not yet paid. And then specialists in admiralty and maritime law, franchise and distribution law, immigration, nationality law, and legal malpractice law have all paid. So that is encouraging. We'll continue to reach out to any specialists with a pending balance and trying to get them to pay their annual fees. Moving on to attachment B, looking at the whole pool of specialists. As of June 1st, we have an aggregate 4,832 certified specialists. That is a decrease year over year from June 1st, 2021 of 176 certified specialists. You can see in that attachment a breakdown of the current and prior year count by specialty area. We have some areas that didn't see a change at all. 9 areas saw decreases. Some of them saw larger double-digit decreases, like in family law. Moving to attachment C with our resignations, from January 1st through June 1st, we've had 104 resignations. That looks to be in line with what the 2021 total count was, where we ended with 149 for the year. 40% of the 2022 resignations are due to retirement. We do anticipate being similar to what happened in 2021. So if we're at 104 resignations now as of June 1st, likely we will be right around that 150 or so mark by the end of the year. Attachment D is our legal specialization education compliance group 1. As you know, certified specialists have to report 36 hours of LSCLE, which is due at the same time as their MCLE reporting. For 2022 compliance group 1, reporting opened December 1st, and we had 1,764 specialists who were due to report by February 1st. Again, like all of our due dates, we've been sending reminders to those who have not submitted their LSCLE compliance. There was a $75 late fee assessed. They did not meet the February deadline, and now they have to the end of this month, June 30th, to report or else face suspension of their license. This was for the MCLE compliance. Separately, for the LSCLE compliance, they were notified that they had to the end of the month, but they did not have a financial penalty for that late compliance. We still have, so out of that large bucket that we had at the beginning of the group total, now at June 1st, we only have 318 specialists left due to report. Again, we're sending lots of reminders to everyone in the group about compliance. And that's all the key indicators.
Well, and I'll just chime in here. I'm much more comfortable that the bar is effectively communicating with our specialists based upon the communications that I've had that followed up, where they are now receiving notices. And so whatever we've changed is working, and we're having much better success in reaching these people. So It's more on them. Have you got done what you're supposed to get done? So I appreciate whatever changes you've made over the last 2 years. They're really working, and thank you.
Well, and we appreciate all your feedback because it's been really helpful to make sure that the reminders we send land with the actual specialist. So thank you.
Okay, I think that does it here for this report. Let's work on to the next one, which is the review of the report on initial certification application statuses. And for that, we turn to Luttrell.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So after taking and passing the legal specialization examination, applicants can apply for initial certification. As of June 1st, 2022, 284 out of 382 candidates who passed the 2019 legal specialist examination filed their certification application. The remaining candidates had until April 24th, 2021 to submit their initial certification application. If an applicant requests for an extension, their final submission due date will be April 30th, 2023, instead of January 31st, 2023. This one-time 3-month extension was approved by the CBLS due to COVID-19. If you take a look at attachment A, it provides a breakdown of those candidates according to specialty areas. So as you can see, bankruptcy law and franchise distribution law have 100% of their eligible applicants submit their application. Estate planning, trust and probate law, and family law follow afterwards, with both having 80% or more eligible applicants submit their application. As of June 1st, 2022, 94 out of 329 candidates who passed the 2021 legal specialist examination filed their certification application. The remaining 235 candidates have until April 24th, 2023 to submit their initial certification application. If an applicant requests for an extension to submit their application, they have until January 31st, 2025. If you take a look at attachment B, it provides a breakdown of those candidates according to specialty areas. Criminal law, estate planning, trust and probate law, family law, and franchise and distribution law each saw 25% or more eligible applicants submit their application. The most common reason for requesting an extension is to meet the minimum 5-year time in practice that is required. Candidates still have the ability to submit their application before meeting the 5-year practice requirement so that other portions of the application can be evaluated. Until the 5-year requirement is met, certification will not be approved. This concludes the review of report on initial certification application statuses.
And Luttrell, what's the average time period for getting the applications reviewed and approved?
So it really just depends on how fast their references respond back. Typically, we tell people, the applicants who submit their certification application, that it takes around 6 months.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And were we finding that it's mainly the 5-year mark that's becoming the problem? It's kind of interesting, the numbers. It looks like the workers' compensation law, they have a very high number of people who've not filed the post examination application. I wonder for that, I haven't looked, that their particular requirements, is there some hurdle that they have that maybe makes it hard for them to meet the bar? I just recall for bankruptcy, you had to have 100 cases and the recommendations and things. I'm just wondering for them if there's something unique about their requirement that causes it hard to get the application in after successfully completing the exam.
If I may, there is actually.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a point of discussion within the legal specialization unit to updating the standards. So there is, I think it's specifically there's a requirement for, I want to say 20 depositions.
Oh, sure.
And that hasn't always been easy. So like with all the other specialty areas,
I
any
think that,
applicant,
I'm sorry, but Adrian, I think also there was when I was on the commission, the trial requirement was also an issue.
you're right, yeah, it is the
Okay.
trial one, yeah. But for all areas, not just work comp, any applicant, if they don't make a prima facie showing of the requirements, they can provide a statement, kind of explaining their practice, how it relates to the specialty area. I'm just using this as an example. Maybe if it's 5 depositions and 20 trials, maybe they
Yeah.
did 20 trials to kind of supplement missing any of those other requirements. So all applications, they are reviewed on a case-by-case basis. So
Adrian, I have a question about that. I'm not as familiar with the workers' comp specialty requirements, but I know for some of them, it's just a total points. So while
Some
you
are-
get points for having trials, even if you have 0 trials, you could still qualify if you have enough points in the other areas up to the maximum number of points, right?
yeah, some of the areas are point-based.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think this may be something, because I think my area of bankruptcy, I think, is not a point-based one. I think it's you have to hit the marks or have the explanatory section. And like we have that is we have to have 100 cases. But like if you have one chapter 11 is PG&E, you're probably a specialist, even though you had 1 case. I think maybe that could be something in the future to kind of alert people who have the non-points based specialties, the ones that are you have to hit targets, that kind of indicate to them that say, you don't necessarily have to be so hung up on the targets if you can demonstrate your other experience, and we're willing to take a look. I'm wondering if people, even myself going through it, if I saw the 100 case requirement, I thought, oh, where am I, in this list? And I realized like, oh, well, you can actually explain beyond that. I think it may be something to kind of help them along. If that's the barrier. It just seems that workers' comp seems to have something different in play than the other ones. So.
Well, I can't just sit by silently. The beauty of the commissions was that it allowed us to look at the requirements for being a specialist, making sure those were reflected what today's practice looks like and who would be a specialist under each of those 11 areas. Without the commissions, we're sort of flying blind in that. And it's something that hopefully we as a board will get an opportunity to address down the line.
Great.
Anything else, Luttrell?
No, that is it, Mark.
Okay, so with that, let's go to the approval of certification revocations for failure to recertify. For that, we'll turn to Adrian.
Got it, thanks. So for this item, just as a quick background, so specialists, they are required to report compliance with the ongoing task and experience and reference requirements by recertifying every 5 years. So prior to a certification end date, reminders are automatically sent through the admissions applicant portal. After the certification end date, we manually send a 30-day late reminder and a 60-day final late notice. That late notice, or the 60-day late notice, is sent through email as well as a physical letter. So we do have 14 specialists with overdue recertification through March 1st. So these specialists, they've all received all of the automatic reminders. They've received that 60-day late notice reminder and have been given at least 30 days to respond. We do have one specialist, actually a couple specialists. If you look at the table on attachment A, there are a couple specialists who are now a year overdue. But we do only have, we are down to just 14. Consistent with past action and in line with compliance with the legal specialization rules to send notice of revocation. If this item is approved, staff, we can send another paper and electronic letter informing specialists that revocation is final if recertification is not received within 30 days. Anyone have any questions on this item at all?
Well, just a comment I'll throw in here. So when this list came out, we got our materials on Tuesday. I went to each one of these 14 folks who had an email and sent an email out to them advising them that their certification was subject to being revoked here for their failure to recertify. In every instance, they had received some form of communication. So they were aware. A couple of them have taken action since getting the email and are in the process of getting recertified. But again, I commend staff and our communication processes that are being used now, because we are reaching these specialists and they are being appropriately warned, and it's really on them at this point and not us for their failure to do what they're supposed to do. So if you take a look at that list, this is going to call for a motion to approve the revocation of their certification for failure to recertify.
I'll make that motion.
And
So
then-
I move to go ahead and revoke those specialists who have failed to recertify who are on the list.
Thank you, Natalie. And do I have a second?
I'll second, Norma.
Thank you, Norma. Adrian, if you would kindly take roll, please.
Of course. Acosta,
Yes.
Hammerschmidt,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Vance.
Yes.
That is enough votes. This motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up, item D, and this is going to be the approval of the 2021 annual report of the California Board of Legal Specialization. For that, we turn to Janice.
Thank you. Good morning. So just to note, this annual report, previous years, we shared it with the Board of Trustees and the Supreme Court. We now continue to create the annual report to preserve historical information. A few notables for this past year. We ended the year with 4,923 legal specialists, and this number may seem low, but we did want to note that even years have higher numbers due to the release of results, and more applicants tend to apply at that time. We also ended the year with 395 certifier to certifier specialists as well. And for another notable, we had the administration of our exam last year, our first remote exam, and it was administered to 456 applicants. We had in-person testing in Culver City and Burlingame to those who had extenuating circumstances or received testing accommodations. A privacy law group update. At our September 2021 meeting, the CBLS, you guys approved conducting more research into potential establishment of a legal specialization in privacy law, and we're expecting to get that group appointed this year. Lastly, our focus for this year, we will be exploring and researching legal specialization exam rules, processes, and efficiencies. We're going to be exploring and researching additional areas of legal specialization and related certification standards. And lastly, we're going to be exploring and researching, identifying other entities to grant certification. And that's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Janice. Again, we're going to have a motion here. Should the California Board of Legal Specialization agree with the staff recommendation? So the motion would be to move that the 2021 annual report of the California Board of Legal Specialization is approved for receipt and filing. Do I have anyone to make that motion?
I will make that motion to approve the 2021 annual report.
Thank you, Natalie. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Second by Hammerschmidt. Adrian, if you would kindly take the roll, please.
Of course. Acosta,
Yes.
Hammerschmidt,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
and Vance.
Yes.
That is enough votes. The annual report is approved. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. By my notes, it looks like that brings us to the close of the open session for now. Is that right, Adrian?
Correct.
Okay, so with this, we're going to close the open session and move to our closed session. Please remember to log out of this meeting and then log into the closed meeting link that Adrian has provided to you. It is 10:58 right now. Why don't we take a 5-minute break so everybody can stand up, walk around, and then we will re-adjourn in the closed session at 11:05. Does that work? Great. So after, just for those in the public, once we finished with our closed session, we will adjourn that session and return back to this open session. And with that, let's pause the recording here. And Adrian, if you take charge.
You got it. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Do we have everybody back here? I see Michael. I see Norma. I think we're just waiting for
Natalie.
Natalie to come back in. So that we can have our quorum to close.
We can actually move to adjourn without a quorum, so we're okay.
Thanks, Gene. Sorry.
Okay, great. Then with that, we close the open session of our June 2022 meeting, and we will see everybody in September. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
And
Thank
thank
you
you
all.
for your hard work, all of you.
Thank you.